Most men navigate the world operating on a set of fundamental assumptions that actions have logical consequences, commitments are built to last, and that a person's word is a binding contract of their future intent. This is the masculine operating system, built on a foundation of reason, consistency, and loyalty. The great error, the source of endless confusion and heartbreak, occurs when a man projects this entire system onto a woman, believing she is playing by the same rules. He sees her smiles, hears her words of affection, and witnesses her moments of vulnerability, and he constructs a reality where these are fixed points on a map, reliable indicators of a shared journey ahead. He is building a house on what he believes is solid ground, blind to the fact that the terrain beneath him is not earth, but water. The pivotal moment of awakening comes when this illusion shatters. It is the day she walks away after swearing she has never could, or the moment her affection turns cold for reasons that seem utterly illogical from his perspective. This is not a moment of bitterness, but one of brutal, sobering clarity. It is the day he finally sees that her compass is not pointed toward the same north as his. Where he is guided by facts, she is guided by feelings. Where he values the stability of a commitment made yesterday, she is pulled by the truth of the emotion she feels today. His world is built on ideals. Hers operates on instinct. This is the core nature of the divide. It is not that one way is superior to the other. They're simply different languages. The masculine seeks to build a stable, predictable structure. The feminine is the flowing current within and around that structure, sometimes nourishing it, sometimes testing its foundations, and sometimes changing course entirely. To expect the water to behave like the brick is the fundamental mistake. A man who understands this stops being surprised by the storm. He stops asking the river why it flows. He ceases his futile attempts to force her into a logical framework she was never designed to occupy. Instead of building his house on her ever-shifting emotional landscape, he learns to build his own solid structure and lets her flow around him. He protects himself not by building walls against her, but by understanding her true nature and thus never being blindsided by it again. This understanding is the first and most crucial step out of confusion and into a position of grounded, unshakable strength. The most jarring and practical lesson in understanding women is the profound disconnect between their words and their actions. A man who listens only to what is said is like a sailor who navigates by the sound of the waves instead of the stars. He will be endlessly tossed off course and eventually shipwrecked. A woman can look you in the eye with absolute sincerity and tell you she loves you. In that moment, she absolutely means it. The emotion is real. The connection feels eternal. Yet days or weeks later, she can walk away without a backward glance, her previous declarations seeming to vanish into thin air. From a logical, masculine perspective, this is the ultimate betrayal, a broken contract. But in her emotional reality, it is not a contradiction. Her words were never a promise for the future. They were a perfect, truthful snapshot of how she felt in that exact moment. When the feeling changed, the truth of the statement expired. Her loyalty is not to a promise she made yesterday, but to the emotion she feels today. This is why so many men are left in a state of devastated confusion, replaying conversations and asking, "But what about what she said?" The man who understands learns to mute the words and amplify the actions. He stops asking that question and starts watching only what she does. Her effort, her consistency, her presences are the only dialects of the truth he comes to trust. This principle extends to her often baffling contradictions. She might say she wants a strong, decisive man, then criticize him for not being vulnerable enough. She might claim to desire a stable, safe partner, yet find herself bored and restless within that very safety. The inexperienced man sees this as hypocrisy or insanity, a puzzle to be solved through debate or logic. But these statements are not lies. They are the collision of competing emotional desires. She wants to feel the security of a rock and the excitement of a storm simultaneously. She wants to be led by a captain, but still feel like she has her hand on the wheel. It is a desire for opposing emotional experiences, not a logical thesis. The man who understands stops trying to solve her like a riddle, accepts that her nature is fluid and that seeking logical consistency in an emotional being is a fool's errand. He doesn't argue with the storm, he learns to sail in it. This is where her tests originate. Her emotional shifts and mood swings are not merely random chaos. They are, on a deep, often unconscious level, tests of your frame. Every tearful outburst, every sudden withdrawal, every irrational complaint is a challenge thrown at your feet. It is a probe to answer one fundamental question. Will you break? When life gets hard, when she gets chaotic, will you remain the solid, unshakable ground she needs? Most men fail this test spectacularly. They get reactive, matching her emotion with their own anxiety. They become desperate, begging and pleading for the storm to pass. They apologize for things they didn't do, trying to logic their way back to calm. In doing so, they prove they are as unstable as she feels. The man who understands sees the test for what it is. He doesn't take it personally. He doesn't get drawn into the drama. He stands in his calm, holds his boundary, and provides quiet. Unwavering strength. He passes the test not by doing anything, but by being solid, being grounded, being unreactive. And in doing so, he earns a respect that is infinitely more valuable and binding than fleeting passion or sweet words. He demonstrates he can handle her inner world, and by extension, the world itself. The most sobering and liberating revelation for a man is the dismantling of a cherished fantasy, the myth of unconditional romantic love. We are sold a story that if you love someone deeply enough and prove your devotion through sacrifice, that love will be a permanent, unbreakable bond. This is perhaps the most damaging illusion men carry into relationships. The hard truth is that a woman's love is not a fixed state. It is a conditional experience, inextricably linked to two vital pillars: how you make her feel and, most importantly, her respect for you. You can pour every ounce of your being into her, your time, your resources, your unwavering loyalty, and believe that this historical ledger of sacrifice will guarantee her presence. But it won't. She does not stay because of what you have done. She stays because of how she feels in your presence now. If those feelings fade, the entire history of sacrifice is rendered null and void. This is why so many good men are left, bitter and shattered, clutching receipts of everything they gave, screaming into the void, "After all I did for you." They mistakenly believed love was a debt to be repaid, when for her, it is a current to be felt. This is directly tied to the critical distinction a man must make. Love and respect are not the same. And respect is the non-negotiable foundation. You can love her with all your heart, but if she loses respect for you, the relationship is already over. Women don't leave men they love, they leave men they no longer respect. This loss of respect is rarely about grand failures. It is death by 1,000 cuts. Your neediness, your indecisiveness, your failure to stand up for yourself. Your willingness to abandon your own mission and principles to please her. Every time you prioritize her emotional storm over your own inner calm, you sacrifice a piece of your respectability. The man who conflates love with sacrifice is slowly eroding the very foundation he is trying to build upon. He thinks he is depositing love in the bank, but he is actually withdrawing respect. Understanding this conditional nature is not a descent into cynicism. It is an ascent into freedom. It liberates you from the martyr complex of overgiving. Stop sacrificing yourself on the altar of her affection, hoping it will be enough to make her stay. You stop begging for a love that can only be freely given when the conditions of respect and attraction are met. Instead, you redirect that energy inward. You begin building yourself into a man who is respected inherently, a man with a purpose, strong boundaries, and unshakable self-worth. You realize that your primary job is not to make her love you, but to be a man she can respect. The relationship then becomes a choice, not a need. You thrive with her if she aligns with your world, and you thrive without her if she does not. Your stability is no longer mortgaged to her conditional emotions. The journey of understanding moves from observation to application. It's not enough to simply see the nature of the dynamic. A man must learn to operate within it without losing himself. This is the art of holding frame. Your frame is the unshakable structure of your own reality, your principles, your mission, your boundaries, and your emotional composure. Most men are easily drawn into a woman's frame. They react to her moods, they plead for her validation, and they allow her emotional state to dictate their own. They become a satellite orbiting her planet, their own gravity weakened and forgotten. The man who understands makes his own frame the strongest gravitational force in the room. He knows that his true power isn't in controlling her reactions, but in mastering his own. His calm, his discipline, and his focus on his purpose are his ultimate weapons. When her emotional storm hits, he doesn't run for cover or try to stop the rain. He simply remains the solid ground upon which it falls. He is the mountain that the weather swirls around. By refusing to be reactive, he demonstrates a strength that is far more compelling than any argument he could win. This mastery of self manifests most crucially in how he handles disrespect. The inexperienced man tolerates coldness, withdrawal, or sharp words, makes excuses, blaming her stress, or worse, blaming himself for not being better, negotiates trying to logic his way back into her good graces. But the man who understands sees disrespect for what it truly is, a direct reflection of her current level of respect for him. It is a signal, not a phase. To tolerate it is to agree with it. To beg for better treatment is to confirm the very weakness that caused the disrespect in the first place. His response is not negotiation, but action. He calmly and unemotionally withdraws his attention and energy. He demonstrates, through action, that access to him is a privilege granted only by respect. This is not a punishment tactic, but a profound act of self-respect. He teaches her through consequence that his boundaries are real, and in doing so, is the only one who can possibly rebuild the respect that was lost. This ability to walk away is fueled by a fundamental shift in mindset, from scarcity to abundance. The man who doesn't understand operates from a place of scarcity. He believes this one woman is his only chance at love and happiness. This fear makes him clingy, needy, and tolerant of terrible behavior. He is terrified of the void her absence would create. The man who understands knows that connection is abundant. There are countless women in the world, and his value is not determined by one person's approval. This isn't about arrogance or promiscuity. It's about a deep internal security. This abundance mindset, his entire posture changes. He doesn't chase, he chooses. He doesn't beg, he filters, doesn't cling. He engages freely. This lack of desperation is incredibly attractive because it broadcasts high value. Women can intuitively sense a man who needs them versus a man who wants them. The latter is always more powerful. This detachment is not coldness. It is the source of his strength. It allows him to interact from a place of genuine choice, making his presence a gift rather than a plea. He becomes the selector, not the selected. And in this shift lies an immense and quiet power. The ultimate transformation. The final and most profound liberation occurs when a man internalizes a singular, life-altering truth. A woman cannot be your purpose. For too long, men are taught to view relationships as the central plot of their lives, the ultimate goal. They place a woman on a pedestal, seeing her as the prize that will complete them, the source of their happiness, and the validation of their worth. They work to impress her, dress to attract her, and mold their lives to please her. This inversion of priorities is the root of nearly all their suffering in the realm of relationships. It makes them desperate, needy, and easily manipulated. The moment this illusion shatters is the moment a man truly becomes free. He realizes that his life must be built upon an unshakable foundation of his own making. His mission, his purpose, his values, and his discipline. These are the anchors that hold fast in any storm. A woman is not the foundation. She is a potential addition to the life you have already constructed. She is meant to be a companion in your journey, not the destination itself. This paradigm shift fundamentally changes everything. When your sense of worth and stability is derived from your own purpose, You stop fearing a woman's rejection. You understand that her walking away is not a verdict on your value, but merely a revelation that her path is no longer aligned with yours. It stings, but it does not destroy you. You stop begging for approval and stop shrinking your personality to fit her expectations. You begin to live authentically as you are, because you know that the right woman will be attracted to the real you, not a fabricated mask. This authenticity is fearless, and a man who cannot be broken by rejection is a man who cannot be controlled. This extends to your perception of her. Stop seeing her as a mythical creature, a goddess to be worshipped, or a demon to be feared, and start seeing her as a human being, flawed and beautiful, driven by her own instincts, emotions, and fears, just like you. The pedestal crumbles, and with it, the power she held over you vanishes. You no longer tolerate disrespect out of a fear of losing this prize. You evaluate her coldly and clearly, not just for her beauty, which is common and fades, but for her character, her loyalty, and the peace she brings to your life. You become a ruthless filter, choosing substance over surface. And in a final, beautiful paradox, the moment you stop worshiping a woman's beauty is the moment you become worthy of a beautiful woman's respect. Finally, you release the exhausting and futile burden of trying to fix her. You understand that her emotions are hers to manage, her wounds are hers to heal, and her chaos is hers to navigate. You are not her therapist, her savior, or her emotional custodian. Your role is not to carry her through every storm, but to remain the unwavering, solid ground where she can find shelter if she chooses to stand with you. You are the mountain. She is the weather. The mountain does not chase the storm or beg it to be calm. It simply stands immutable. This is the core of true, unassailable strength. By building your world around your purpose and inviting her into it, rather than building your world around her, you achieve the ultimate position. You become the man who doesn't need her, but whose life is enhanced by her presence. And that, irrefutably, is the man she cannot replace.